Hi, Louise. It's Ramona, and you and I are going to be reading this story called Jesse's Hill. And it's a story about a boy and his bike. Uh, do you have a bike? If you do, you probably enjoy riding around your neighborhood. I don't know if you ride up hills or not. When I was a little girl, we had plenty of hills where I lived. I live in the city, but we did have hills. One of the hills by our house was really steep, and I would love riding down it and take my hands off the handlebars, which probably wasn't very safe at the time, but we didn't think about that. So I looked at this story. It's really fun, and it's a little bit longer than the others, but we're going to read this story called Jesse's Hill. And there's a lesson in this story, so we can talk about that later. Jesse pushed his bike into the driveway. Can I come to the zoo, Dennis? Can you ride to the top of the hill? His brother asked. His friends were ready to go. So there's Jesse, and there's Dennis, his big brother, and they're going to go to the zoo. And Jesse wants to go, but in order to do this, he has to ride to the top of the hill. Jesse looked up at the steep hill. I think I can, he said. Let's go. Dennis and his friends rode away. So there's Dennis's friends up there, and here's Jesse trying to keep up with them. Jesse pumped on his bike. He pedaled as hard as he could. He passed Mrs. Johnson's house. So there's Jesse, and he's on his bike. How old do you think Jesse is? I'm trying to figure out how old he is. I don't know. I mean, it's a pretty big bike, right? So, no, I would say maybe Jesse is like a fifth grader or something like that. I don't know. It'd be fun to get your opinion on how old you think Jesse is. But Jesse's trying to catch up with his brother. His legs were shaky. He passed Peter Potter's house. It was hard to breathe. He was hot. He stopped in front of the yellow house. Okay, so it looks like the brother and his friends are taking off. He didn't quite catch up with them. His legs started to shake from all the pumping on the pedals. Jesse, Dennis called from the top of the hill. Jesse looked up. When you can ride to the top, you can come. Jesse stamped his foot. His brother disappeared over the hill. So I guess Jesse's not going to the zoo today. The next day, Jesse tried again. He jumped on his bike. He pedaled as hard as he could. So Jesse's looking very fierce. He's over there, very determined, right? Now he wants to be able to conquer that hill. He passed Mrs. Jennings' house. He passed Peter Potter's house. So there's two houses there. His legs were shaky. It was hard to breathe. He was hot, but he passed the yellow house too. Oh, that's great. Last time he had to stop at the yellow house, right? Jesse tried to ride up the hill every day. His legs were shaky and it was hard to breathe, but every day he rode a little farther. Good for him. Determined, right? You don't give up. You have to keep going. If you can think of something maybe you did that you had to practice a lot on before you were able to do it, you just keep on going, right? A little more every day until you hit your goal. It was Saturday morning. Jesse pushed his bike into the driveway. Dennis and his friends were leaving. Oh boy. So maybe he's been practicing all week. So let's see what's going to happen. He looks confident. Where are you going? Jesse said. Dennis stopped. We're going to the zoo. Can I come? Can you ride to the top of the hill? Watch me. Jesse jumped on his bike. He pedaled as hard as he could. He rode past Mrs. Jennings' house. He rode past Peter Potter's house. He rode past the yellow house. His legs weren't shaky. He pedaled harder. Go, Jesse. You can do it. Dennis and his friends cheered. He pedaled harder. Isn't that something? When you're being encouraged, right? Uh, Makes you work harder. At least it's making Jessie work harder. He passed 3 more houses. He was almost to the top of the hill. His legs were shaky. It was hard to breathe. Jessie was hot, but he didn't stop. His bike slowed down. It wobbled, but he kept moving. That's what happens if you're going up the hill, right? Have to keep the wheels steady, but sometimes they do wobble. Jessie stood on his pedals and pushed. He reached the top. Good for Jessie. There he is. He's waving. He did it. He's looking back, and his brother's friends are down there at the bottom of the hill. He looked down at Dennis and his friends. They were puffing and panting. They rode up the hill. So not just going straight up a hill. They had a long path they had to pedal before they even got to the hill. So that's really impressive that Jessie was able to do it. Dennis patted Jessie on the back. Do you want to come to the zoo? He said. Jessie grinned. Here are some questions. The first one is, let's see. The story's main idea is Jessie practiced until he could bike up the hill. The lesson is, what's the lesson here? Practice, practice, practice. Yeah, if there's something you want to accomplish, you definitely don't quit. You just keep going because you're going to feel terrific when you have finished that goal, whatever it is. It makes you feel really super, really proud of yourself. What makes Dennis a good big brother? He was a good big brother, wasn't he? He always invited Jessie, asked me if he wanted to go to the places that he and his friends were going. But what especially made him a good brother? What do you think? Yeah, he didn't make fun of his brother or put him down for not being able to pedal up the hill. He was encouraging him. And when he saw that Jessie was almost there, he was like chanting, "You can do it." That final bit of encouragement that made all the difference. How did Jessie finally get up the hill? I think we just talked about the encouragement, right? Um, he finally got up the hill because he worked hard on it. He worked on progress a little bit more every single day. And that's going to be how it is for reading for you and for anything that you do or I do or anyone does, is that if it's something you want to accomplish, then you just go ahead and do it. So this was a really good story. It's the last story that I'm recording today, but I wanted to say thanks. It's been fun reading these stories, and I hope that you've had fun reading them on YouTube. And keep on reading. It's wonderful. And the great thing about books and reading is that you put your own imagination in it, and you can see yourself as the person. You could see yourself as Jessie trying to bike up the hill, or you could see yourself in any situation because your imagination and your mind can take you anywhere you want to go. So enjoy reading, have fun, and have a great rest of the summer. Goodbye.